Okay, hello everybody. Today we are going to be reviewing the second series of the I guess third series of the Marvel shows that I've watched. So I'm trying to kind of watch these in the best order that I can because I'm not sure how they would have worked season-wise. So I watched Daredevil first because I know it was the first show that came out, and then I watched Jessica Jones, and then I was just able to finish Luke Cage before it left Netflix yesterday. So pretty pumped about that, and now I'm watching Scream Queens over again because it leaves on March 19th. So I'm trying to get in a few series because I know I have tons of content ready already. So I can do a few TV shows in between this time, and then I'll start getting back into movies when I'm getting closer or running out of content for both my channels. But it seems that I'm able to kind of stay ahead of everything so far. So we'll see. We'll see how the TV shows go because I want to get some of these done because I've been been holding off on them for so long. It seems that I should just watch them because they are really good shows. Now this one I wouldn't say was quite as good as. No, I can't remember. What did I rate Jessica Jones? See, I just put my rating up now, so I can actually go and look at my Jessica Jones rating and just see what I rated it compared to the Luke Cage show. Oh, okay. So yeah, it was a little bit. This one was a very slow start, as far as I was concerned. Um, but the show does kind of pick up in the second half of the first season. Uh, so yeah, the first real enemy is Cornell Stokes, or as I guess his gangster or his name on the streets, I guess, is Cottonmouth. So all these guys have nicknames like Shades is one of them, Cottonmouth, Tone, Sugar. Like all the guys have like their street name, right? So that I guess their real identity isn't, uh, I don't know, ever revealed. I guess their true identity isn't ever revealed, or so nobody knows their real names. I guess is kind of the point of having like is it a pseudo name or pseudo identity. Is that how you say that? I can't. I'm not sure exactly, but so anyway, yeah. This show has quite a few. I guess three enemies throughout the entire. No, four technically, because I guess when Cornell's sister takes over the business after killing him, so he didn't last too long. But I guess that's kind of what the whole Stokes family is based off of, is kind of murder, deceit, that whole sort of thing. And Luke Cage is kind of in there to keep Harlem is where they are. So New York still. So that's how we know that I guess Jessica Jones and Luke Cage were closer than most of them. And then there is an appearance by Danny Rand in there as well. So once uh, once these shows go over to Disney Plus, because it has been confirmed now that March 16th is going to be the date of that, I will be watching them. And I'm not exactly sure when this video is going to go up, but we'll see. Maybe I'll put them up in March because that seems to be maybe the best thing to do, but I'm not sure if this will go up in March or when it'll go up. But whenever it does go up, I'll probably do the shows in the order I watched them. So I'll probably upload the Jessica Jones one first and the Luke Cage. I think Iron Fist is next, and then I will do. Oh no, Marvel Defenders is next, and then I'll do the. Yeah, then I'll do Iron Fist and then Punisher because that. I think it was the last one in the series anyway. And I feel like I'm kind of saving the best for last. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. But anyway, so the main cast in this show, I guess, which kind of makes sense, was Mike Coulter, who played Luke Cage, Simone Missick, who played Misty Knight, and I didn't really. So she was the main cop in the show with her partner in the very first season, whose name was Detective Raphael Scarf, who was played by Frank Whaley. So he was a dirty cop and ended up killing. Oh God, a kid's name was right on the tip of my tongue too. Anyway, Cornell's in the gun business, and one of his operations goes sideways, I guess, from an inside job from one of his. I'm not sure whether he was stealing the guns or whether he was just supposed to have the guns delivered to somebody else, and then that ended up going sideways from another inside job. It's very confusing. No, so I guess maybe they were trying to, yeah, they were trying to screw over Cornell out of the guns, I suppose, by taking the money and by taking the money for themselves. I guess was the whole deal there. So Cornell's kind of losing his business as I guess other people are moving in on his on what he's doing underground. Yeah. So like gun selling, and what else do they do? So they deal in everything else. They deal in everything underground but drugs. I guess drugs has been always kept out of the Stokes name because I guess drugs is the dirtier side of the street life. I'm not really sure how all of it goes, how all of it works, but I guess yeah, drugs is the more maybe dangerous business, I suppose, is kind of what they were trying to say with that. But eventually, Maria Dillard, who was actually Maria Stokes, ends up getting into the drug business with, I believe, was it the Chinese or the Koreans? One of the two. And then Theo Rossi plays Hernan Shades Alvarez, and he is sent there by, who we find out a little bit later in the first season, Luke Cage's half-brother, Diamondback, or what was his actual name? Let's see here. Oh, yeah, Willis. Willis was his name. He was played by Eric LeRae Harvey. And that was where the show kind of got a little more interesting because I guess his main goal was that he thought he was overshadowed by Luke when they were kids. And he never really was the favorite child, I guess, was kind of his complaint. Oh my god, my nose. Sorry about that. So then, oh, where was I? Yeah, he was overshadowed by Luke as a child, so now he's trying to kill him. And there's this thing called the Judas bullet that is supposed to be, I guess, can penetrate even armor. So it's going to be, they think it's going to be strong enough to hurt Luke Cage, even though he has this unbreakable skin, as we learned in the Jessica Jones show. And the one, anyway, the bullet does end up going through his skin and exploding, so it's just all pieces of shrapnel. But his skin's so strong that that nobody can cut into it, right, to get the shrapnel out. So they actually have to dip his body in acid in order to make the skin weak enough to get into his skin to get the shrapnel out. And then in the second season, when we see him get shot by the Judas bullet, it literally just like spins on the surface of his skin and explodes. So I guess the theory that they had was that dipping him in acid to weaken his skin actually re-strengthened it and made the cells stronger within his body. So yeah, other than that, there really is no way to operate on him but by going in through like the real soft tissue, like his eyes or down his throat, like into his body the most invasive ways possible is basically the only way to operate on this man. So that's pretty crazy. Or putting him through extreme measures like dipping him in acid at a high temperature in order to get into his skin. That's absolutely crazy. So what else happens in the first season? I guess so Detective Scarf ends up getting found out that he's dirty and working for Cornell. Obviously we know that Mariah ends up murdering him, and then she kind of takes over the business with the help of Shades. Because he kind of, I guess he was on his way to kill Cornell himself anyway, so her doing that kind of just helped him along in the end anyhow, so there we go. So then he just wanted to take over the club part of the business, because she was trying to go legitimate and create shelters for women and all that stuff, but she ended up turning into basically this character, Mother Mabel, which I believe was actually, so her and Cornell were cousins. So who was it that played Cornell Stokes? Where is he? No. God, why is he so far back here? I hate when they do that. Like, they're in enough episodes where they should be farther up in the cast list, but they're so far back. He's got to be here somewhere. So also, Cornell's War was kind of created based on the fact that this Tone guy ended up killing Pops over the kids that ended up screwing over Cornell in the very beginning of the show. Where is he? How is he this far back? Good Lord. I don't know why I can't find him. I've either passed him, or he's literally this far back on the list. There was a lot of appearances in the show, I'm finding out now. Good God. I would not have thought he would have been way back here. That just doesn't make any sense. He was in the very first half of the season, basically. For the first season. Where is he? Maybe I'll just look up a photo from the show and it'll show me a photo of him, hopefully, not just all Luke Cage. Apparently there's only 10 images from the Luke Cage show. Well, that's not helpful. Okay, so I can't actually find the actor on the list for whatever reason as to who actually played Cornell. I don't know why. And I've literally gone through the entire cast list. So that makes zero sense. But anyway, yeah, so this barbershop is where this all kind of starts, and you see this character Luke Cage, and we do get a backstory of him too, being in Seagate Prison and all that stuff. So his actual, yeah, his real name was Carl Lucas, but then he changed it to Luke Cage when he escaped prison and obviously came to Harlem. So yeah, I don't know why. Holy crap. Ugh. I accidentally exited that. So anyway, yeah, Pops ends up getting killed, and then this war between Cornell and Luke Cage starts. And yeah, things just get really messy, and then Misty, the cop, gets in the middle of it all, and she doesn't know who to trust or who's fighting for what, but I guess she does kind of trust Luke Cage because they did end up having, I don't really know if you can, yeah, I guess a one-night stand, basically, when she was in the bar, and he just kind of sweet-talked her back home, and all that good stuff, and then, yeah, so she's kind of conflicted, I guess, through the entirety of the show, as to who to trust, so, yeah, I don't really know why. Yeah, it's just really weird as to why he's not, like, right here somewhere. Unless I just passed him. Oh, there he is. Maricela Ali played Cottonmouth. Or Cornell Stokes. Okay. Yeah, so I did just pass him. That's funny. He had this really deep voice, which was kind of... Yeah, I wish he had been alive a little bit longer in the show. So I think that's pretty much what goes down in the first season as the main story anyway. And then in the second season, we're introduced to this guy who became one of my favorite characters in the show, and I hope he does make more appearances. This Bushmaster character who was the leader of this Jamaican gang. And oh my god, I was like I was kind of rooting for him for the entire season. Now, obviously, his tactics were kind of brutal, um, but after finding out what the Stokes did to him and his family, it was kind of deserved, his brutal tactics, as far as I was concerned. Um, so yeah, but he became one of my favorite characters in the show for sure, and he was played by Mustafa Shakir, who played. Oh yeah, I guess his name was John John. So yeah, he came up from Jamaica back to Harlem, or I guess just New York in general, uh, in order to get back his birthright, which would have been Harlem's paradise, because I guess his dad helped build it, and I believe his uncle is one of the his uncle was. I think that might be him. No, Anansi was his uncle, played by Sahar. Sarnahuja? No, that can't be right. Sarnaguja. Maybe that's it. I hope I'm saying that name right anyway. Ow. Bushmaster takes this. Now, I think he might have some abilities to begin with, but he takes this Nightshade to kind of boost his powers, I guess. But it's also killing him at the same time. And Claire, who has made appearances in a lot of the Marvel shows, obviously, as kind of like the go-to doctor, I think she really kind of establishes herself in this season, or in this series, as kind of wanting to help the superpowered people, and she ends up falling in love with Luke Cage. Unfortunately, that goes kind of horribly wrong after he kind of lets the rage build inside of him, I guess, and doesn't really find a way to calm himself down and ends up punching a hole in her wall at her place, and that's where the relationship ends. And so now he's kind of becoming like, I guess, the person he didn't really want to become, just due to the fact that he's just letting the anger build and not really thinking about the repercussions of his actions anymore, and so on and so forth. So I guess we'll kind of yeah. And then I'm not really sure if he's in any of the other series, Luke Cage. So I guess we'll see. But anyhow, this Bushmaster guy basically just kills everybody that is close to Mariah. Yeah. And now she's definitely just become Mother Mabel, that's for sure. And who played Mother Mabel? No, she might be a little further down the list. Mother Mabel. I will recognize her photo as soon as I see it. Yeah, so Latana Richardson played Mama Mabel. And so I guess Mariah was raped when she was a kid by her uncle, unfortunately. So this family is just absolutely twisted through and through. And I guess Cornell tried to tell her at one point that she wanted it, but that wasn't true, obviously. And who played Pete? I thought he was down here somewhere. But they called him Uncle Pete, and it ended up being Cornell that shot him. Just due to the fact that I guess he tried to screw over the family in his own way, but he tried to say that he was doing it for Mama Mabel, but I guess that wasn't, at least she didn't think that was the case. So Curtis Cook played Pistol Pete Stokes, or Uncle Pete, as we knew him, and then in the second season, we got introduced to Tilda Johnson, or I guess she was technically a Stokes, or she was told that she was a Stokes anyway. Turns out she wasn't. She was actually, I guess, a Johnson, because Pete was the uncle, right? So kind of interesting that um, and she kind of had the musical talent of Cornell as well. So I guess Yeah, I'm not really sure who she was told that her father was originally, but obviously not who it actually was, because I guess as soon as Mariah had the baby, she was just taken away by Mama Mabel and delivered to this other family, and then years later, they kind of reunite. But oh my God, once Mariah had told Tilda that, I think their relationship was absolutely over, because after that, she just helps Bushmaster try to kill her mother. And I was really hoping that Bushmaster would get to her and kind of get his revenge, but for some reason, Luke Cage just stepped in, and yeah, he just steps in and tries to save the day, even if it's for the wrong reasons. Like, he could have just turned a blind eye to it. And then he ends up actually owning the club at the end of the show anyway. So I guess Mariah kind of returned the favor, I don't know, in her own sick way to him. Even though he didn't have to take that deal, he did anyway. And he kind of, I guess, becomes like the new king of the streets type deal. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. He kind of became the street gangster. Hopefully he doesn't start dealing in guns and all that. But Claire does show up, I guess, at the very end of the show. And but he tells her to go home, because I guess he doesn't want her to be part of his life anymore. Or maybe he just realizes what he's doing, what he's becoming, and he wants her to stay away. That could be it too. But it is kind of cool that he ended up becoming friends with Sugar at the end of the show. And yeah, I'm glad that Sugar got out of there before they ended up shooting up this place called Gwen's. Because otherwise he would have been an accessory to those murders, and he would have been in the crosshairs of Bushmaster guy. And this guy was absolutely ruthless. And at least he did listen to Tilda when he'd broken into the club, and he took the extra nightshade to boost his energy. And I guess he finally did make it to the top of the hill, but his buddy said that even though he's made it here, he's not going to be able to really enjoy the view, unfortunately, because of what has happened. Because he's hurt himself so much taking the nightshade. But Tilda does end up killing Mariah at the end of the show, because Bushmaster says that the only way to get rid of Mariah is she has to burn. There is no other way. You have to get rid of her. You have to kill her. There's no other way around it. She will just find a way to get out of her situation. Which Mariah actually does say to her at the end of the show, is she only needs one member of the jury to agree with her, and then she can get out. So it's pretty crazy how the justice system works, hey? So yeah, and I guess she was going to swing the story that Shades was the one that manipulated her, even though it was definitely not that way at all. Maybe in the beginning he kind of gave her a little push, but she definitely took control and owned that, and then she was the one manipulating him into doing what he did. And he ended up killing one of his best friends from jail, or I think maybe even possibly a love interest. I was kind of confused as to whether they actually had that connection, him and Comanche, or whether it was just like more of a brotherly bond. I'm not really sure. Maybe somebody can clarify that for me. But yeah, I couldn't really tell whether they were. I guess they kind of did hint at it a little bit, or at least she thought maybe that's what was happening. But yeah, I couldn't tell whether it was just like yeah, I don't know. They kind of made like the hint at like a jail relationship, but I think it was more than that. I think they were actually like brothers, or maybe they were lovers. I'm not really sure. But anyway, he ended up having to kill him after, Comanche shot a cop. So that was a sad moment for him. And then I think when Shades realized he was just in too deep was when they ended up killing Nancy at Gwen's and just murdering everybody there. And he was like, this is too much. I have to confess. I have to throw Mariah under the bus. There's no other way around it. I gotta snitch. So he did. And then I guess he got kind of immunity until Mariah's death, and then he was charged on Mariah's charges, because that was part of his deal, was, I guess, the conviction of Mariah. But that never ended up happening, so he just got screwed out of his deal and ended up having to serve the time himself. So, yeah, I guess when it comes to being a gangster, you should just keep your mouth shut. You get a good lawyer, and that way you could just. It seems in this show, at least, that they got off on most of the charges until they just got so deep that there was no way out for some of them, and they just found out that they should probably just tell the truth, because at least that would help them a little bit, I suppose. But yeah, none of them were really good. Luke Cage was, I guess, kind of a better character than I've seen so far in some of the other shows, because he doesn't actually kill anybody. So that's good. He almost succumbs to it with Bushmaster, but he doesn't end up killing him. He lets him go, thanks to Misty, I suppose. And I kind of thought that Tilda and Luke were going to get together, but that never ended up happening. So I think that would have been interesting to see the two of them together. And then he kind of does team up with Bushmaster a little bit in a couple of the episodes, but I guess it's just kind of to protect the people from him. And then, yeah, they end up just being enemies in the end again anyway. So, I guess because, yeah, obviously Bushmaster murders people and Luke Cage just, he just doesn't. He doesn't kill anybody, at least in this series. It'll be interesting to see if he does in any of the other series. Once they come to Disney Plus on March 16th, I will continue watching those. And I think that's about all I can say for this show. Yeah, I don't think I'm missing much. If I am, I can't think of it at the moment anyway. So, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, my rating. I gave the show a 6 out of 10. I don't think, I think it was just because of the really slow start, but then the second season was much better. It picked up a lot more. But yeah, as a whole, I can still only give this show that, just because, that slow start, and then, the first season just wasn't nearly as good as the second. And one thing that I wish they had have done is brought back Diamondback into the second season along with Bushmaster, because the doctor that worked on Luke Cage, or I guess that kind of gave Luke Cage his abilities in jail, ended up being seen with Diamondback at the very last episode of the first season. So I'm assuming he's giving him powers. So I'm not sure whether Diamondback will be in one of the other series. Maybe he's in the Marvel Defenders one. I'm not really sure. I guess I'll find out when I watch that to see who the main enemy was. Because I did start watching that, and then I just kind of, it seems like with all these shows, I just started watching them and I just never finished them. So it's kind of funny that once I realized they were leaving, I was like, oh, I guess I better watch as much of these as I can before they leave, because I'm not sure where they're going. It was rumored Disney Plus, and now they're going to be on Disney Plus anyway, so, yeah, that's good. There was one other thing I was going to say. Oh, yeah, the whole, flashback to jail with him. There was something I was going to touch on there. So he got his powers, I guess it wasn't the warden. It was one of the prison guards, I think, that basically told him that he was going to fight or he would kill all of the friends he'd made in jail. So Luke Cage ends up fighting, and then when Luke Cage ends up deciding that he's going to go against this cop, or guard, the guard tries to kill him by turning up the heat of the water, and then it ends up just it not only heals him, it just gives him these abilities. So yeah, that was kind of a cool way, I guess, to kind of give him abilities. And then he ends up breaking out of jail with just his bare hands, so, and swims all the way across the water back to New York. So that was pretty crazy. But anyway, yeah, I've been talking for, wow, almost 30 minutes. I didn't think I could talk about that long about the show, seeing that it was only 2 seasons, but I guess I did. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye for now.